So for next week, I'm expecting a downside in the beginning of the week to swipe previous week's low to then trade up higher for the rest of the week. So my name is Oscar Madison, welcome back to another weekly outlook, and in this video I will go over my main pairs and take a look at them to see if we can catch possible trades next week. So let's start off on the DXY from the weekly time frame. So again, what can we see here? We are bullish as always because it's the weekly time frame. So we've seen that upside, we then saw a pullback in those discount prices, and then we came in towards that demand and liquidity level. From there we then pushed up higher and got the order flow break over here, and now we have the demand zone which is in control and could push us up higher. So let me also put on the fractal indicator for you guys, as well as the opens and the checklist, because it might be important. So over here our daily structure is bearish. We then got the retracement into the premium prices of this bearish swing structure. So now what could happen is that we could trade down lower to the swing low. So that's definitely possible. What I'm looking for is to possibly maybe even trade up higher. Now the reason for this is, yes, we took liquidity above all of these liquidity highs, and yes, we are bearish, and yes, we're inside premium prices. So that could mean that we could actually, I think this is a fake candle, so this would be your liquidity, and this would also be your supply, which I think you tapped into. You barely didn't tap into it. So basically with that trend that's bearish, you could trade down lower, but you all saw that the weekly order flow is bullish, and also this daily order flow is at the moment still bullish, so I could definitely expect some upside. You can also see that the monthly has been only trading down lower, so what could I expect? Maybe with this order flow trade up higher, maybe towards that supply, and from there then get the low getting swiped, or we just continue up higher together with the order flow. So that's what I'm personally expecting. It is a bit on the low probability side because the daily is bearish and we tap premium prices and we took a lot of liquidity, but overall be very patient, wait for that 4-hour confirmation to see if we could trade up higher. So actually we can now see that that candle was not fake, it was just a weekly gap. So we only grabbed this liquidity, and then basically you still have these liquidity highs open together with maybe this supply zone. So that is that. So there's still some point of interest open at the highs, but right now what can we see? We grab liquidity underneath the low, we have this demand zone open, and we already reacted up higher, got the fractal break in towards the upside before we tap this demand. So I'm definitely expecting a swipe of the low, then maybe switching order flow back bullish again, and then look for possibilities of longing the dollar index. So overall, yes, we are bearish here on the 4-hour, but I still think that upside is definitely possible. Now, if we, for example, see that we just are breaking the lows every single time, we're not reacting, then I could definitely expect to just continue down lower with this 4-hour order flow towards this swing low. We gotta see how we react from this price point. Are we going to trade down lower in line with the trend, or are we going to trade up higher in line with the daily and weekly order flow, which is bullish? So that's something we gotta wait for. Going over to EURUSD on the weekly first. On the weekly we are bullish, but at some point we gotta make the pullback towards the discount prices. Now when is that point? Normally when the order flow switches bearish, which is over here because you broke this low. So now you have the supply, which should be pushing price down lower towards this liquidity point and discount prices. Now we took some liquidity above this high, so it definitely is possible to trade down lower, but there is some more liquidity above the highs with a supply zone above it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a move up higher, tap in that supply, and then from there go to the discount prices. So that's something we gotta look for on the lower time frame. So let's take a look at the daily time frame, which is bullish at the moment. We then got a retracement into the discount prices, which was also perfect, the demand zone and this liquidity low which you took out. Now the order flow also is bearish with this overall supply being in control, or actually it's not, it's bullish, and I will explain this. So you had first of all had this supply because you got to move up and then you got to move down, right? But then you moved in that supply, you moved down lower, broke this low, so you created a new supply, and this was then your supply in control, which should push price down lower, but that didn't happen, and you broke that supply, and now you have this demand being in control. As you can see, this is your demand zone now in control, and we have bullish order flow, so we could now also trade up higher. So definitely on the daily, EURUSD looks definitely ready for upside. So let's look on the 4 hour. Same structure, same discount prices, same liquidity. Also the order flow is bullish with this demand zone, but overall I think if we see that the retracement next week, we grab some liquidity, we tap in towards this demand and monthly level, I definitely think we could see some upside from here. Overall, we should be very careful with this demand zone because we have some more liquidity underneath the lows, and we have this demand zone also open. So it could be that a lot of people are going to buy over here, but you can also see there's almost no liquidity in this move up. There is liquidity over here, but not over here inside this demand. So we might just swipe that demand, tap this demand, and then trade up higher. So be careful and wait for enough confirmation from this demand or this demand in order to trade up higher. Then GBPUSD on the weekly. So on the weekly, we are clearly bearish, right? Sorry. We then got the pullback into the discount premium prices. We grabbed some liquidity above the high, and then after grabbing liquidity above the high, we changed the order flow bearish, and now this supply is in control. So from this supply, I'm definitely expecting downside, and keep in mind we have these equal lows over here, which is definitely something, okay, which is definitely something we could take out in the near future. So definitely expecting downside here towards these liquidity lows. Now, gotta keep in mind though that we still have liquidity above all of these highs, so that definitely could still happen. Some swipe and then trade down lower, but overall I don't think that it looks very possible because we have that liquidity already and we have a double fractal break in towards the downside, so definitely expecting downside here on GBPUSD. Something that could happen though is this. So you have the weekly fractal break over here, and then you had another weekly fractal break over here. So what do you see? A double fractal break. And sometimes you see a double fractal break, then internal liquidity grab in order to then fuel down lower again. So that might be a possibility which you should take in consideration when taking shorts already from this supply. But overall, we're daily bearish, so downside looks very clean. We almost tapped premium prices, and we are inside the supply zone, which also had some internal liquidity, which we now took out. So this supply zone is also going to be our order flow, so it definitely looks very, very clean to trade towards these weekly lows. On the 4 hour time frame, we're also 4 hour bearish, and we now grab liquidity above these two highs. We still have a supply zone open over here, so what do I want to see? A tap in towards that supply, because then you also are inside premium prices and you can basically check off everything from your checklist except order flow, which you then will need to change bearish, and then you have an A plus short setup, in my opinion, based on strategy in towards the downside. So that is that. Looking to trade out these equal lows in the near future, but be very careful with this double break, liquidity grab, and then trade down lower. So that's that. If you want to already look for shorts over here, basically be very careful. Maybe wait for a double fractal break before taking any shorts here, but definitely possible. Going over to EURAUD on the weekly, it looks like we could trade up higher because overall we're weekly bullish. We then got a retracement into the discount prices. As you can see, a perfect tap into the discount prices. You did grab a little bit of internal liquidity above the high, so you could expect to maybe grab some liquidity at the lows. But overall, you see we got a big reaction from that discount prices and this demand zone, so we could just continue to trade up higher towards the swing high. On the daily, you're also daily bullish, same as on the weekly, with this being your discount prices. And basically the order flow now should be bullish. So you had bullish order flow, then it changed bearish for a second, but now over here you broke the low, and then you broke the high. So this demand zone is now in control, and now this could push us up higher. So what am I expecting, or what am I looking for? Well, of course, a retracement into that demand, which is also the monthly level, and from there look for longs towards the highs. Where could we trade to? Towards the swing high, of course. So that's what I'm looking for next week here on EURAUD. What does it look like on a 4 hour? You can see it's kinda choppy, but overall, if we follow the order flow, we should be okay. This is our swing, and the order flow is overall bullish. So let me also remove the bearish order flow over here. And what I'm now looking for is, of course, this tap into the demand, confirmation, and then we could take longs. And I think my first target will be this supply and this liquidity, because from there we could see a small reaction and then trade up higher. So that's that. Make sure to be very careful, because the 1 hour structure is bearish, and it could be that we might just trade down lower towards the swing low and then trade up higher. So be very careful of that. Also, what can we see? In the beginning of this month, we shot up higher, no liquidity in this move up. There is liquidity over here, but no, not over here. So it could be that you grab this internal liquidity before moving up. Just be very careful and wait for the right fractal breaks in order to take those long setups in line with the order flow and the trend. Going over to GBPAUD on the weekly first, again bullish. You grab liquidity above the high, so I'm expecting to grab some liquidity at the lows over here, right? Not this low, because when you grab liquidity above the high, this low was not there anymore. Or it was just not there. But after grabbing that liquidity, these two lows were there. So you could expect to take out those liquidity lows, then tap the yearly level, tap this open demand zone, and then look for upside. So on the daily, even though that we are daily bullish and we tapped discount prices, we still have bearish order flow, so you could still expect us to trade down lower towards that yearly level and liquidity and open a weekly demand. So that's definitely possible. However, be very careful, because you now took some daily liquidity in the low, right? And you tap those discount prices over here. So it could be that we now switch the order flow bullish, create demand, and then from there we could see upside in towards this swing high. So be very mindful of that. But overall, I think it should maybe bring us down lower over like this year, somewhere around this year. We should end up being in this demand. From here you have A plus longs, but overall I think at the moment shorts are definitely possible with the bearish order flow. Again, just be very careful with the potential upside that we have. On the 4 hour, it's kind of the same, because you have the same swing structure, so you have the same discount prices, but you can see liquidity underneath the lows, open demand, and the yearly level. And then you can see the order flow is bearish. So now you grab some more liquidity above the high. So if you see the 4 hour fractal change bearish, you could definitely look for longs. However, as long as the fractal stays bullish, we could see upside, and we could change the order flow bullish on the daily, and then possibly look for longs. So if we change the order flow bullish, then see a retracement, for example the monthly level with this internal liquidity, boom, fractal break. This is a very nice long setup in line with the daily and 4 hour trend and order flow, so definitely very clean. On the EURCAD, on the weekly, we are bearish. This is my swing structure. We grab liquidity above the high. This is my swing high. So what could we expect? To respect that high and trade away from it, right? Trading towards the swing low. So we have that supply zone with internal liquidity, which should push us down lower. From that point, what happened? Well, of course, we changed the order flow bearish. So you now have this supply being in control, which should push us down lower to trade out all of this trend line liquidity that we have at those lows. And then we could trade towards this open demand. On the daily, we even have more confirmation that we could do that, because yes, we're bullish, but at some point we gotta make a retracement towards the discount prices. When is that point? When the order flow switches bearish, which is over here. And now from this supply, I'm expecting downside, all of this liquidity out, trading towards discount prices and this demand. Very clean to trade down lower. So we gotta wait for the 4 hour for confirmation. So yes, guys, the 4 hour structure is bullish, but overall you saw that the weekly and daily order flow is bearish, with the weekly that took a lot of liquidity, which should push us down lower. So even though that we're bullish, we could definitely look for shorts if the order flow on the 4 hour changes bearish. Now, as long as the order flow on the 4 hour is bullish, I would not recommend taking shorts, because then you could, in line with the order flow, continue up higher to the swing high and then, for example, trade down lower after you made a new 4 hour swing break. So there are two options for me. Basically, the option is that you break this low, then you change the order flow bearish, and then you can take shorts, or you take out this high over here, then change the order flow, and then you can take shorts. So that is what I'm looking for. Let's say the order flow keeps on being bullish, I'm not going to take long setups, but after swiping this high at some moment, I think we gotta then change the order flow bearish, and then I could take shorts towards lows. First of all, I would target, let's say this was your swing break, premium and discount prices should be over here. So if we see the order flow switch, my first target would be the discount prices, and then later on I could maybe target all of these lows, but that's something we gotta see in the future. For now, possible shorts this week. On GBPCAD, we know previous week we were looking for longs. Let's see if that's still the case. So on the weekly, we are bullish, and again, we took a lot of liquidity above this high, so we could expect a reaction now lower, which we already have, and you can see we just continued the order flow. So with this continuation of the bullish order flow, I'm expecting to trade up higher to take out this weekly liquidity. So that's what I'm also waiting for. Now you can see that the order flow is bullish, and we now grabbed internal liquidity underneath this low and changed the weekly fractal again bullish, creating a little demand zone where we could again trade up higher from. On the daily time frame, you're then also bullish. You then got a retracement into discount prices where we grabbed some liquidity and tapped a demand zone as well as the daily level, where we then got a reaction up higher from. Didn't have a break yet, doesn't matter, because then after grabbing liquidity above this high, you trade down lower, grab liquidity underneath the low, tapped in towards this demand, and then what happened is that we now changed the daily order flow bullish. So let me explain that, why that is important. So basically, previous week we were already looking at longs here on the 4 hour, looking to trade up higher. I said previous week that an A plus long setup is when you wait for this high to be broken to then take the long, because then the daily fractal is also bullish. Now I also said that on the 4 hour longs are already possible, definitely, because some other things, and you gotta watch that one back. But basically right now the daily fractal is also bullish, and we continue the order flow, so longs are even more valid, maybe even giving us a little wedge, which we could get a third tap above this high, for example. So definitely looking for upside here on GBPCAD. Looks very clean on the weekly and daily so far. So how does it look on the 4 hour? So on the 4 hour we did have a break, so we are bullish. We then got a retracement towards discount prices. We swiped all of the lows, tapped this demand zone, and from there we got the 4-hour break in towards the upside. So what you could have done is, for example, took this long setup right over here towards the highs, or what was also possible after the double fractal break, something like this, exactly like this, trading up high for a 3R. So those are all possible longs you could have taken, definitely valid setups. Right now, this is your demand zone in control. You do have this overall demand zone as well. So what am I going to do? I'm going to say, okay, let's see. So, okay, right? You know, this is the overall daily demand. Okay. So inside this demand, you could trade up higher. Maybe after this liquidity grab, boom, boom, or maybe a whole retracement in towards this 4-hour demand and then trade up higher. All possible. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the PVT from the low to the high. And if we trade up higher, then I'm also going to adjust it and move it up higher. But for now, it's over here, the high. So if we see a retracement into the discount prices, which is now perfectly aligned with this 4-hour demand, then the 4-hour fractal change, then you could look for longs. Now, as long as we're inside premium prices, I'm not looking for longs here on GBPCAD. So that's what I'm waiting for, a retracement into discount prices of this little move up, and then I'm going to look for longs to scale in towards the highs. So GBPCAD also A+ to look for longs. Then the yen basket real quick. So you can see that we're bearish. We grab liquidity above the high, grab liquidity over here, and overall the order flow is just continuing to be bearish. You then see that you have this supply which is in control and is pushing us back down lower. We reacted from that yearly level, but overall it seems that we're going for the lows over here with this open amount over here as well. A nice target maybe. But overall we're weekly bearish, so you could also just expect downside, definitely expecting to take out these lows. On the daily we are bullish though, and we already got a retracement into discount prices, so it could be that we could make a new swing high. But what can we see? We trade up higher, we grab some liquidity, and we fail to break the swing high, and this is often a sign of reversal. From there the order flow just kept on being bearish, right? And now I just keep on expecting to trade down lower. So we tap this supply zone where we also grab some liquidity. So for me this is maybe an inducement to then again trade down lower, but I cannot think, I need to look objectively. And what is objectively? Well, the order flow is bullish with that demand zone, so we could also just trade up higher. So what I'm going to do, look on the 4-hour, what is happening with the order flow, with the trend, with everything, in order to see what could happen. So on the 4-hour we're bearish, we have those premium prices, so at some point we could make a retracement towards those premium prices, but at the moment it looks like we're just continuing down lower. Now overall we switched the order flow. Okay, so on the 4-hour we actually, one second, let's see. So this was your order flow, and this which you broke, boom, boom. Okay, so actually now the order flow is not this demand zone, but overall it's now this supply zone, right? So basically, let's see, let's remove this. Basically the order flow now is bearish on the 4-hour, and what could we expect? To just trade down lower. So at the moment, because you are not trading the yen basket, so you're not looking for an entry, but you're trading the euro yen and GBP yen based off the yen basket. So at the moment I could expect downside on the yen basket. Once we flip the order flow bullish again, then we could see upside towards those premium prices of the 4-hour, right? So that's definitely possible. At the moment I just expect downside with that weekly order flow trading out all of these lows. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure to try them out. So first of all, where's the thingy? Okay, doesn't matter. So this is now for our liquidity, boom. So this is something we could possibly take out, right? So keep that in mind when trading. the Euro yen and GBP yen. So on the weekly time frame, we are bearish in structure. We have tapped this refined supply, grabbed some internal liquidity, and now we could trade down lower. On the daily, we're also bearish, and we have this refined supply which we tapped with that internal liquidity, and from there we now change the order flow bearish, creating this supply zone. So you see, you fail to break the low over here, so that could mean that we first grab liquidity above this internal high before shorting again. So what does that mean, right? What does that failing break? Why does it work? Because you fail to break the low, so you need extra fuel in order to fuel the move down lower. What is fuel? Liquidity. So if you grab that liquidity, that's extra fuel to then make sure to push underneath this low. At the moment, there's not enough fuel to push down lower underneath that low, so you need to grab some more before you move down lower. What is more? This high. So that's that. On the 4-hour time frame, you are 4-hour bearish, right? And you tap those premium prices, but overall there's, like we said, that liquidity because you failed to break the low. So I'm looking to take out that liquidity. We also have this supply zone. We might get something like this, I'm just saying, and then we can trade down lower. But overall, after grabbing this liquidity high, then I'm going to be very careful of looking at shorts. So basically something like this, then an order flow switch in order to then take a short is definitely possible, but I'm going to be mindful of this short because the yen basket first need to be having bullish order flow because before I take any shorts. And yeah, maybe this supply is something I want to tap as well before taking short setups. But overall, if we see something like this, then order flow change, shorts are definitely valid. GBP yen on the weekly, we're bearish. We then have this liquidity high which we now grabbed, and we're gonna move down lower, which also caused us to break the weekly fractal down lower. Then on the daily time frame, you basically have the same swing structure. You have a supply zone open over here, but we already reacted a lot from that weekly liquidity, so I'm just expecting downside. You also see that the order flow is bearish and this supply now is in control, so I'm expecting downside from that supply as well. On the 4-hour time frame, your swing is now bearish. From this demand, you then had bullish order flow, right? But overall, if we from this little supply zone, which is also visible on the 1 hour, if we from that supply zone see that the order flow change is bearish, we could take some possible shorts towards this yearly level, maybe towards the swing low as well. So shorts are definitely possible. Again, yen basket needs to show confirmation before we take any short possibilities. So then going over to gold, on the weekly, you are again very bullish, with this being your order flow, with this demand that should keep pushing us up higher. On the daily time frame, you are bullish all the way over here. You have discount prices over here, but overall, gold is very bullish, so we should not, or we could, but it's not needed to tap those discount prices before trading up higher towards a swing. At the moment, the order flow is just bullish, so we could just continue to trade up higher with that order flow. Then what can we see? Well, that this demand zone is your order flow, which is bullish, and then you have also this demand which could push us up higher, but overall we have some trendline liquidity underneath the lows, which I'm expecting to take out next week. Tap this demand, and then you have A plus longs towards that high. So that's my game plan also for gold. So again, swing structure is bullish, you have bullish order flow, you grab some liquidity to fuel the move up higher. Now let's say you get this, then what happens? You fail to break this high, so you need to grab some liquidity underneath the lows, and then from there you can then trade up higher towards the highs because you then have grabbed some fuel again. So this is what I'm also waiting for. Still have my alert on top of this demand, just as previous week. Sometimes you gotta wait for a very long time. So you have all these lows, want to take that out, then tap in that demand, 4-hour fractal, and boom, clean long setup. So that was it for today, guys. I hope you guys saw some potential setups you guys also want to take. Let's see, and also share them maybe inside my comments if you guys did so. And good luck for next trading week. See you guys. Ciao.